All right, commissioners, we're all set. We're going to call the meeting to order. All right. Good evening and welcome. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order tonight. And as we begin our meeting, I ask that you join me for a moment of silence. So if you join me in standing, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we will have roll call.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes, here.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Present.
Commissioner Lanier,
Present.
Commissioner Reppert,
Here?
Commissioner Moody,
Present.
Commissioner Kelly,
Here.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes. All right, and so next we're going to have our first opportunity for public comment. And if this is the first time that you've come to our meeting, I'm just going to walk through the agenda real quickly because we have 5 scheduled public hearings tonight. So the first opportunity for public comment is that if you're here to talk about something that we're actually voting on. And so on our agenda that you see, there's a whole list of items that we talked about earlier today in one of our standing meetings. So if you're here to talk about one of those items, I'm going to open up that public hearing in just a moment. We have a couple rules for public comment. We ask that you come up, that you share your name. There's actually a list over there on that table against the wall where we ask you to write your name just so we get it spelled correctly in the minutes. We ask you to share your name, the city that you live in. We'll give you 3 minutes to speak. For the first public comment period, we ask that you specifically say what item we're voting on that you are referring to. Then later on in the agenda, after we get through those items, we have 5 public hearings. So if you are here tonight to speak about the Brownfield plan for 10 Ionia or the Habitat for Humanity Plaza Roosevelt Brownfield Plan Amendment, or the ICCF Brownfield Amendment for Eastern Elementary School, or I'm sorry, Eastern Elementary Redevelopment Project, or if you're here to speak about either of the parking zone, residential parking zones, one over on Alabama and one on Lake Drive. If you're here to talk about any of those items, I'm going to ask you to stay put. I'll open up those public comment periods a little bit later on. And then at the end of the meeting is an opportunity to come up and speak about whatever else, anything that's not on the agenda or that's not related to a public hearing. So with that said, I'll open up the first opportunity for public comment, and this is a public comment period on something that we're actually voting on tonight, and you are welcome to come forward. Again, we ask you to come up here to the podium, speak in the microphone, share your name, city, and what item. So anyone here to speak on anything we're voting on? All right, come on up.
Hi, my name is Official Von Ruff. I stay in the Hartside community. One thing that you guys are talking about, I'm not sure, you probably said not to talk about it. I was listening a little bit, but about how you guys are giving funds for such. What is it? Just 1 second. Okay, the income bracket about affordable housing, it's for like the age of 55 and up, but how does that helping people in my age bracket that is like homeless, or in my income bracket that's just helping people 55 and older, not helping individuals that's coming up in a generation that's working multiple jobs and can work? Like me, for myself, I work 3 jobs right now. I do have Section 8, but I'm still having troubles getting housing, and it's being an issue. What do you all... I feel like that should...
I'm sorry, sir. What item that we're voting on are you referring to? If you just want to tell us, like, the number, just so that we know.
Let me go to it just 1 second. On page 3, Community Development Committee.
Okay,
That
thank
number
you.
C.
Under community development.
Which number?
Can you tell us what number under community development?
I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but the article that I'm referring to that was brought to my attention, unlock, was the Commission of Advanced Development for 64 million in housing projects.
Yeah. So I don't think that's an item that we're actually voting on tonight. We have a couple under the public hearings, which are brownfield redevelopment, but I'm not sure what specific project that you're speaking about. So, no,
The
that's okay.
brownfield one that I was just talking about to you in the car? Yeah. So the brownfield one.
Okay, so we're going to open up those public hearings a little bit later
Right
on.
later? Okay, thank you.
Okay, all
Good.
right, you're
Now I can do
welcome.
better.
Thank you, thanks. I know it can be a little confusing. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard on something that we're voting on? Mr. Miller, you coming up? No, you're not? All right. Oh, he's getting his paper. All right, Thought you were trying to-
Not gonna miss his turn.
trick us. How are you doing?
Good evening, fellow citizens. This is the House of the People. Watchdog Miller reporting. Welcome to Simon Legree Square, where black bus routes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 14 are banned and buried beneath the wealthy viaducts. And the NOLA 19 running Madison Square and Oakdale, which flat out stolen and destroyed. 4 falls ago, Gerald Ford refused to play ball with Georgia racism. We need the same kind of courage up there. Specifically, 8-1, comptroller's report, 22.7 million, but we need 8-1. We need more focus on long-term debt, as the conservatives behind me are very concerned about going to bonds too frequently in the last couple of years. 8-2. I would like to congratulate City Hall on reportedly you're going to save $100,000 a year by switching banks over to Madeline Bank. 9B1, B1, 2, 3, 7, and 8, no dollar figures. 9B4, what's that all about? What is Curlyhurst all about? If you could explain that to the public. Also, 17, and that would be B17 and C6, related items. It would be nice to have more explanation on that. You're going over $1 million on that contract. C1, Alice Cooper, and you only give us, 4 days notice? This is very sloppy governmental work. It should be, fortunately, it will be indoor, but our buses are out past there. I'm going to City Hall. You've turned 20 Monroe Live into a 12-story boom box. C7 and 8, you mentioned vaguely improvements going up to $1.3 million. Please give us more detail on the parking ramp improvements for your evening audience. We've got most people who are, they're busy working for a living. I'm suspicious of the flood wells. Why all the involvement in flood wells when our bus routes, Catholic and Black and veteran, do not come here anymore? Why is all this obsession with building flood walls when we have flood walls up? You're going to apparently cut through the flood walls. D3 Walker View is a disgrace. It's more than 1 square mile project.
Mr. Miller, your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. right, anyone else who wishes to be heard on items we're voting on tonight? Mr. Townsend, you going to talk about something we're voting on?
I'm not sure it's, Committee on Appointments.
Yep.
Resolution confirming Mayor Bliss' appointment of Cassandra Wolf to the Community Relations Commission. That's not nothing new.
Yeah, we're going to vote on that tonight.
Okay, well, this is real quick then.
Okay.
I just want to know, is this person going to only be reporting to the city commission and them, or whether she going to be out in the neighborhood? Or is it going to be just reporting strictly to the city commissioner?
No, it's a Community Relations Commission, which is a separate body. So
But
she'll
I'm in the
serve-
community,
Yeah,
that's what
and-
I'm,
Yeah, and that body does report back to the city, full city commission.
she just report back to the city, nobody else. I mean, you don't get to talk to this person. Citizens can't talk to this
Oh,
person.
no, you can talk to her. Yeah. The meetings are open to the public, and you can attend those if you want.
Oh, well, yeah, when she get appointed, I would like to talk to
Okay,
her,
all right, we'll ask someone to,
but that's all.
yep. Thank you. All right, anyone else on items we're voting on tonight?
Are is the WMCAT report, the zoning ordinance tonight, or no?
No, it's not.
Or just wait till then? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close that first opportunity for public comment, and that'll take us next to approval of minutes from our last meeting, which was on October 9th at 7 o'clock. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, Commissioners, any questions, comments, changes? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to petitions and communications.
The first one is two communications received from the East Hills Council of Neighbors Boards of Directors regarding Housing Now proposals.
That is received and filed.
And then we got a add on this afternoon from Scott Atchison, a communication received from him in regards to a daily information center.
That is also received and filed.
And then at the end, it's in front of you is a letter from a resident addressed to the police chief and county commissioner Womack in regards to the other day. So that was a late addition this afternoon, so you have that in front of you.
Okay, Commissioners, you all have that correspondence in front of you. All right. That is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to reports of city officers, and we have two items tonight.
Yep, the comptroller's report for the period of October 3, 2018 through October 16, 2018 in the amount of $22,733,391.15.
That is received and filed.
And treasurer's report for the period of October 2, 2018 through October 12, 2018.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to our consent agenda and reports of our standing committee meetings. So earlier today, we had a number of meetings, and before you is a list of those items, and everything on the consent agenda are items that we voted on and where there was a unanimous vote. So can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
Moved. Support.
All right, Commissioners, any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right. And next, that will take us to ordinances to be adopted, and we have 4 ordinances tonight. Bless you.
The first ordinance is an ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2018-35 for fiscal year 2019, Amendment Number 7.
All right. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
All right, Commissioner Jones, you want to tell us about this one?
Yes, ma'am. This morning in fiscal, we had a couple of items of note. There was the receiving of a couple of grants on behalf of the 61st District Court. One was a domestic assault response team grant. The other was a Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA grant, which covers our drug sobriety court services. There was no change in the contingent balance.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruppert,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, And can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to our second ordinance tonight.
Yeah, consideration of adopting an ordinance regarding miscellaneous zoning ordinance text amendments.
So moved.
Support.
All right, Commissioner Moody, you want to tell us about this one?
Yes, these tax amendments were previously recommended for approval by the Planning Commission and considered by the City Commission earlier this year in several packages that included recommendations centered on changes to the requirements and review process for the sale of alcohol for off-premises consumption, housing now, miscellaneous amendments needed to correct the omission and correct the errors for the 2017 ordinance rewrite.
All right, Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Kelly?
I just want to clarify that this is not, just so that there's no confusion, because we had a constituent come up asking about housing now, that this is really not that broad discussion. These are just minor text amendments that were kind of cleanup items, so not to worry about that.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. All right, anything else? Okay, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, and can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Or,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that'll take us to our third ordinance tonight.
Consideration of adopting an ordinance rezoning 655 Godfrey Avenue Southwest to TNTCC, which is Traditional Neighborhood dash Transitional City Center.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
moved.
Support.
All right, Commissioner Park, First Ward.
Yeah,
Commissioner, you
so
wanna tell us
this
about
is Godfrey Avenue. This building used to be the Loose Furniture and Michigan Chair, as well as McKinnery Spring and Wire. It's currently zoned industrial, and this would allow it to have commercial and residential use on the property, which is it's a very, very big building with lots of potential. I was able to walk the corridor with John and the owner and just kind of hear a little bit about what their vision is for it. They've done maybe I shouldn't say this now, but they've done a great job engaging the community as well. But-
this? No, you can say that
Okay.
because it's factual.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioners, any other comments on this request? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
yes?
Mayor Bliss.
Yes. All right, Commissioners, that will take us to our fourth ordinance tonight to be adopted.
Consideration of adopting an ordinance rezoning 111-1, AKA 1101 Godfrey Avenue Southwest to a TN-TCC Traditional Neighborhood Transitional City Center.
Moved.
Support.
All right, Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, so very similar to what Kurt had talked about for the previous property. The owner is just requesting the rezoning of this property to facilitate the use of the existing buildings on the property for a range of various residential, commercial, and industrial uses. As currently zoned, residential and commercial uses are not permitted. It's a 6-acre parcel on the west side of Godfrey, kind of across the street from where the recent area-specific plan was for the Roosevelt Park neighborhood. I think this is something that complements the neighborhood extremely well. They've done a really great job of engaging not only the neighborhood, but the nonprofits in the neighborhood, and really, I think, have a pretty broad vision for something that's going to be quite spectacular for a number of potential end users.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Just a comment. My understanding, this is an old factory building that has been sitting empty, pretty much empty for years, but there were artists in there for a while. Is that the one in
Yeah.
the Black Hills area?
Yeah, it's one of the various buildings. Most of these are a multitude of buildings for these sites where things were built and added onto again, and there's a lot of varying uses. I think there's some really great industrial use in several of these buildings, which are planning to remain in the site because they're growing businesses, minority-owned businesses that have created real jobs and are continue to grow. So they want to keep those existing commercial and they're not really industrial, light industrial, if anything, uses in the facility, but transition some of the lesser. Not as high and best uses they potentially could be to be some real some residential, some artist spaces. I think it's quite a thorough plan, I think. That's really exciting. And I think he owns a number of properties. He's been very thoughtful about how to transition all the users in the spaces to, I think, eventual better uses.
Possibly the largest antique mall in the state of Michigan, possibly.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Repart?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. It passes. All right, next that will take us to our scheduled public hearings. And so if this is your first time here, what I'll do is I'll open up each one. I'll ask the staff person to provide us some information about it, and then we'll open it up after the city staff and the individual representing the project has an opportunity to speak. So we'll start the first one. This is a public hearing to consider a brownfield plan amendment for HGR LLC for a project located at 10 Ionia Avenue Northwest. So this public hearing, the notice for it has been made pursuant to state law. And we have Kara Wood here from our Economic Development Department who will give us some background on this, and then we'll invite up, I believe Rich is here. So we'll invite Rich up to speak about this project, and then we'll open it up for public comment. So Kara?
Good evening. Tonight's public hearing is regarding the development of an existing surface parking lot into a 13-story mixed-use building. The Hinman Company is planning to invest $36.4 million into a project that would result in 146 hotel rooms and related amenities, as well as 5,555 square feet of ground floor retail space. This project is seeking reimbursement for brownfield-eligible activities totaling approximately $2.2 million. That includes the cost of environmental site assessment activities, demolition, site preparation, and both public and private infrastructure improvements at the site. This reimbursement would be expected to occur over a 15-year period, and the Downtown Development Authority has also approved approximately $1.4 million of eligible DDA activities as well. The developer estimates that this project will create 51 full-time equivalent jobs, ranging in wages from $10 to $31.25 an hour. The project is meeting one of the city investment criteria in the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority policy. And as a result of them being willing to promote mobility through investments in pedestrian signal improvements at all three intersections of the project, pursuant to the project, the developer qualifies for a reduction in the annual administration fee from 10 to 5% here. This project has received approval from the Historic Preservation Commission, the Planning Commission, and has been reviewed at the Economic Development Project team. At this time, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, we can invite Rich up here to add to the conversation.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Kara? All right. Rich, you want to tell us some more about this project?
All right, thank you, Kara. My name is Rich McDonald with the Hinman Company, representing HGR1, and thank you, Mayor, City Manager, City Commissioners, City Attorney, and City Clerks for having us this evening. We're very excited about this project. I guess first off, on the in-your packet, there's some additional information, some images related to the project. The first image is just a aerial view that shows the site, and it's wedge-shaped or triangular-shaped site. That site was formerly the Ringe Building. It was built in the 1800s. That was a 5-story building, and then some years after that, they added 6 stories on top of it for a total of 11 stories. It had a variety of different uses over the years. Also had a little service station near the tip of it at one point in time, and that building was removed in the 70s, I believe. And the site, because of some of the automobile uses, is contaminated and is considered a facility. The project on the other pages shows you some imagery of what we're planning, a 13-story hotel. The flag will be a Marriott Residence Inn, and we're excited about that because it's a very well-known, reputable brand. Not only does it focus on the business traveler, but also the family travelers as well. So we think that That hotel and that brand and flag will do a number of things. Obviously, it'll help support the arena and the convention center, increase critical mass with visitors closer to the mall, which will help support and sustain retail, which is one of the goals. Job creation, and we also think the design is really iconic. We're excited about the design. It's got a very flat iron look to it, which we're very happy about. We're planning to start construction in December, probably late December, maybe early January, and plan to be finished with construction about 16 months later, so probably mid to late 2020. The site has a number of challenges. Obviously, the shape of the site, the fact that there are really no staging areas. The existing, or the old building has its foundations and its structures located still on the site, so those have to be removed. We are planning on the signal improvements. We're planning on the snow melt system and sidewalks, new landscaping, new lighting, and a number of enhancements. So other than that, if there's any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we appreciate your consideration of this request and are excited to get going.
Thanks, Mr.
I
McDonald.
have one question.
Yep, go ahead, Commissioner.
I didn't hear you mention anything about parking facilities. Is there parking, addable parking?
Yeah, so we own the 30 Ionia parking ramp, which is directly across the street. And so parking will be accommodated in that ramp. We did receive a approval from the Planning Commission to install an overhead walkway that connects the top of the ramp to the building, which we felt was a really win, because that allows us, typically with hotels, they want to have their lobby and all their different functions all on the same floor. So by being able to put that walkway across from the ramp, that allows us to put the lobby on the second floor, which frees up the ground floor for traditional retail and commercial uses.
You know what the number of parking spaces are over there?
We have 146 parking spaces that exist in the ramp, and 156 parking spaces. And there's some different ways that we'll probably stack some spaces in order to get the most number of parkers in that ramp as possible.
What's the accommodation of the hotel rooms?
I'm sorry?
How many hotel rooms?
So there's 146 hotel rooms, and we're planning for about 75% occupancy. Is pretty standard, and then which would be around 110 parkers, and as time goes on, we're estimating that fewer and fewer people will drive. They'll have some people that'll take cabs and Uber and different means of transportation, so it'll probably be less than that need. So that ramp will still service the building, 77 Monroe Center, that we also own, the Michigan National Bank building, where City Flats Hotel is as well.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks. Commissioners, any other questions? All right, great.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to take a seat if there are questions from the audience, then I'll have you come back up and answer those.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, great. So if you're here tonight to speak about this brownfield request, now's an opportunity to come forward. Same rules apply. We ask that you share your name, the city that you live in, and we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. Oh, and please sign in. Sorry, I'm a city clerk. Please sign your name on the form over there. It makes his job a lot easier. Getting a head cold. It's hard for me to think.
Well, my name is Martha Cooper. Took a little time off. I'm all back. So I'm speaking on this one because I've watched for a long time brownfield development credits going to for-profit businesses. The man that is planning on building this motel, from what I see in the newspaper, our area is growing so fast, our roads can't even keep up. So there's not going to be a problem, I think, with his profitability having this development. I believe that these brownfield development credits have been flying out the door to people who are going to be having successful, profitable businesses on those sites. Right now, I believe that the city could be a little smarter when it comes to selling a property that's right downtown, knowing that right now there's like a whole lot of people that want to build and grow in Grand Rapids because of where we are sitting right now in the economy. So I also feel like I'm seeing a whole lot more public money going toward projects. I don't care if there was a gas station on that. If he wants to buy the property, that's what's on the property, and he can fund it, because all of the profit will be his, and nothing will be for the city. Someone else will buy that property, and that's just what is happening on that property. Like if you bought a house and there was a bad tree, it comes with the property. So I really am here to insist that we start spending brownfield development credits, and that we stop doing like we're going to have retail on the bottom and a whole bunch of so-called affordable that folks like me or elderly people can't reach. I feel like this is just, it's gone too far, and these people really don't need this. If the downtown development wants to contribute to it, great, that's downtown development. But those brownfield credits can be used in a lot of places and start putting in more 30% rather than 60%, 80%. $800 efficiencies are just not within HUD. The man was talking about HUD, okay? Right now, a one-bedroom apartment the HUD will cover is $650. We don't have enough of them. I think that the public money ought to go to things like that.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Okay, once again, my name is Official Von Ruff. All right, I think I got this now. So the Brownfield Plan is an environmental clean credit which the poor taxpayers pay for who can't afford it, which if it got removed, the poor would have to demolish that and the rich don't remove that. Is that correct?
No, you can speak to this, and then after you share your thoughts, then I'll have our economic development director.
Well, it's not thoughts. I'm trying to get an understanding of. I'm new to your guys' community, so I'm trying to get a full understanding of like what's going on, things like that. So this is like things that's coming to my attention and being brought to my attention. So that's why I'm asking to get a full, clear understanding as being a individual and low income and got disabilities and like mental and stuff like that. So I'm like an individual that's really like speaking for the people that don't have a voice and that is scared to voice their voice. So I'm trying to get a full understanding of this. So yeah, can you just answer that? Is that a yes or a no?
Well, so the public hearing period is for us to listen and not to go back and forth with people who speak. So it's a public hearing for us to hear comments on whatever we are taking public comment on. And so that's why we don't engage in a back and forth, because it's just an opportunity to hear public comment. And it's a public hearing for that. So,
Madam Mayor, may I interrupt for just a moment? Is it possible that a staff person could meet with him to help him to understand what brownfield credits are all about?
Yep, that's,
When will we be able to do that?
we'll have right afterwards.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. It can be confusing, we know that. It's a lot of acronyms too, so apologize. Anyone else who wishes to be heard on this item?
Watchdog Miller back. I did a 7-page report on this project earlier, and I attended 4 or 5 meetings on it, including planning. The most offensive thing about it, well, one of it is you already got a Marriott hotel, Courtyard by Marriott, inside Plaza Towers, maybe a block away on Fulton. Why does Marriott get more subsidies? If we need to boost the hotel industry, what we should be boosting is competition. Also, the most offensive thing about this building is that the walkway pedestrians will be on the 2nd floor, and that's going to screw up bus service. In that neighborhood, so that is in a historic district, which they had a long time realizing. But the next building over, CWD Bishop, Trade and so on, 50 Lewis, 21 Ionia, their walkway's on the fifth floor over to the next parking ramp. And so their ramp, that's a 3-story ramp, it should be at least even accommodating 3 stories high. We need, there's a new dash bus stop there, which is handy for transferring on the 20. And what's going to happen to that? These bus stops just disappear, and nobody on the ninth doing all these handouts, and nobody on the 9th floor is tracking it. The only progress they made before was in a new rendering, and the Historic Preservation Committee was really exasperated with Hinman, was now on the ground level floor on Fulton, bus swapping Fulton, a canary yellow sports car emerged in their rendering, but I don't see how the transit riders are going to be accommodated. And it looks like they claim 146 parking spots, but Hinman Building, that's the old MNB Weatherball building. It's a big building, you know, and so that's apparently the main parking facility for at 30 for also the Hinman Building at 77 Monroe, which the claim was you could see many colonies from that building at one time. So the parking ramp walkway should be at least on the 3rd floor, giving clearance for city buses. We need Lewis for city buses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, anyone else wishes to be heard on this item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close that public comment period. And we'll move to the next one. And maybe, Kara, during your opening, you can give a little bit more detail about what Brownfield, the TIF is. Okay. So this next public hearing is related to, do you want to do that now, or do you want me to move on to the next one and you can incorporate it in?
Go on to the next.
Okay. So next public hearing tonight is a public hearing related to Plaza Roosevelt. So this is a public hearing to consider a Brownfield Plan amendment for Habitat for Humanity of Kent County for the Plaza Roosevelt redevelopment project. Similar to the last one, notice for this Brownfield amendment plan was made pursuant to state law. So we'll start this off with Kara Wood to provide some information, and then I see Bree McKee here. So we'll give Bree an opportunity to come up with her team to share any additional information. So Kara, you want to start?
Sure. Just a little background on the Brownfield Redevelopment Program. This is a program that was enacted by the state legislature many years ago, and what really results here is new investment in turn drives new tax growth. And it's that new tax growth that we use to reimburse for certain eligible activities under the Act. And those things include the environmental concerns, the environmental contamination cleanup, demolition, site preparation, and it does include public infrastructure activities as well as lead and asbestos abatement. So the program funds are created by a private developer who owns property and builds something, and then the city collects its taxes and then reimburses according to that approved development and reimbursement agreement. So without the project, there isn't any credit or any fund to give them money from. So it is through private development that funds are derived in order to reimburse for certain eligible activities.
Thank you.
Yep. So this project here in the second public hearing is with Habitat for Humanity. They're the lead developer here, planning to construct 17 Habitat for Humanity homes, 2 24-unit residential, 2 24-unit residential buildings with first floor commercial space. So there would be apartments in those residential buildings, a new public high school, and a plaza and park for all to enjoy. The total estimated project investment is $40 million. They're seeking reimbursement for brownfield eligible activities over a 25-year period for about $1.2 million. The reimbursement for these activities would come from tax increment revenues and also an approved grant by the local brownfield revolving fund in an amount up to $315,000. including another grant from the Clean Michigan Initiative and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality in the amount of $235,000. So because Habitat doesn't pay taxes on certain property, and neither does the public schools, so there is a lot of tax exempt property as part of this project, we've pulled together other resources to help make up those eligible activities. In addition, the project is also seeking low-income housing tax credits from the state in an application submitted by Dwelling Place for the rental apartment units. It's anticipated that 32 full-time equivalent jobs will be created in connection with this project. Wages anticipate to range between $12 and $22 an hour. And it is expected that this project will generate employment-based income of $12,605 in the first year, which would be deposited into the Affordable Housing Community Fund. The project is meeting two of the city's investment criteria in the policy, and those are the units that are affordable to households earning 80% of area median income or below. And in addition, this project is also pursuing LEED for neighborhood development standards. So this is hitting on two of the city's investment criteria here. And so therefore, they qualify for a reduction of the annual brownfield admin fee from 10 to 0%. So this is a great project. The developer has engaged residents of Roosevelt Park and the Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association throughout the planning process. And in addition, the project has received approval from the Planning Commission and has been reviewed at the Economic Development Project team as well. It's an exciting public-private partnership. And we have Brianne McKee and Ivor Thomas here from Habitat.
Okay, great. Kira, why don't you stay a minute? I'll see if my colleagues have a question for you, and then we'll call it Bree and Ivor. Commissioner?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So, Kara, to make sure I'm understanding, what we're looking at now is just 7, 8, and 9 of the plan, not the other, like the school and there's a
Correct. So this
larger-
is just the brownfield tax increment financing aspect of it.
For those townhomes.
It covers the entire project area.
Okay, it will, okay.
It will, yep.
Okay.
Other questions? All right. All right. Let's hear from Habitat, who's worked on this project for quite a long time.
Yeah, since 2012. So I'm Ivor Thomas, Director of Community Development at Habitat. I'm sure many of you commissioners are already familiar with the project. We went through the planning process, got approved as a PRD, which was really a great way, in our opinion, to get the project zoned and off the ground and running. So, yeah, every time I get a chance to talk, I really just say as honestly as I can that the foundation this is built on is community participation. And it's community participation that started quite informally in 2012 and went through 3 more formal iterations till we got to the PRD stage. And even now, we're continuing to meet with the neighbors to form a permanent partnership of all of the developers in Plaza Roosevelt, as well as with the Neighborhood Association and the group who has self-identifies the Neighborhood Partner Committee, to ensure that the cutting of the ribbon day isn't the end of this partnership. In fact, Bree often refers to it as the beginning of the partnership. So long after we got what we wanted, if you wanted to look at it that way, we didn't get what we want. This is an ongoing journey that we consider ourselves partners in with the community. I have to tell you, I had a moment the other night, I'm speaking with Bree, I can pretty much guarantee this commission that while Habitat is in every country in the world, no Habitat for Humanity has ever purchased 6 acres of land, redeveloped it, and then sold it to a public school system, potentially a city park system, a health clinic, and another affordable housing developer. All of the housing units, which total 65, will be 80% below, so that includes our townhomes, which will be done in a condo townhouse format, and the 48 dwelling place apartment units. So we're very excited about the project. We're very excited about the opportunity to get $1.2 million in brownfield credits, not counting the new infrastructure the city's already currently putting in around the project. It's a $40 million project. So it's like every little piece of this helps the community see that all of the effort and comment that they've been putting in over the years is actually going to come to fruition. And as we understand it, that's a rare thing. So again, we just thank you for the time and consideration of these precious resources into the project.
Thanks. Thanks, Ivor. Let me see if anyone has any questions. Questions? All right. Thank you. Thanks. So if you're here tonight to be heard on this public hearing, now's an opportunity to come forward. We ask again that you share your name, the city that you live in, and we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. So is anyone here to speak on this brownfield plan amendment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing and we'll refer that to, oh.
I don't know how many times I can comment. How's the world go on that?
Well, do you want to comment on this request for the Habitat project?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I'm really disappointed. My name is Martha Cooper. I'm in Grand Rapids still, at least so far. I'm really quite disappointed that AMI is people that are working in the medical industry and they make plenty of money. And then there's people down here that are making 10 still. And when you guys set it at 80%, that's kind of above the middle. I would think that middle would be somewhere in middle class. So I appreciate Habitat for Humanity. I think the thought was good, but now you're applying 80% of AMI everywhere, so there's no equity. I want you to especially hear that because we care. We say we care a lot about equity, but it's being applied on Division Avenue. It's being applied over in the Roosevelt, and I don't think really that 80% isn't middle, it's like middle class. Affordable for who is always the question I come with. Affordable for who? The person that's going to be having all these jobs that are $10 an hour, but up to 31. How many 10? And how many 31? How many 15? So I find it really hard, and I'm going to speak on the next one too, because I think I got a minute and 35, and I don't expect you to answer me. But I want our new city manager to listen very closely. I've been coming on the regular, and I've been saying that there are older people, there are disabled people. I had a friend of mine die in a motel room from depression. I watched the city, and we got people living in motel rooms with children, and you're saying that 80% of AMI. I'm going to tell you right now, sir, that's not even Christian, really. I have 3 minutes. There's never any back and forth. We can barely even understand this stuff. You give us this and we're trying to follow along. And all I'm really saying is that you need to be really believing that 80% of AMI is not affordable. And 800, let me just tell you that the facts are, 1-bedroom apartment under the HUD standards, okay? That's supposed to get us up to living in a better neighborhood was the whole idea, so that you could live above, you know, and then maybe rise above. And what's happening is it's $600 for a 1-bedroom, and you are putting AMI at 80%, which is giving us an efficiency for $800 down on Division and Weston. It's disingenuous, and yes, it is not moral.
Thank you, Martha. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard?
Yeah, Official Von Ruff, once again. Martha, I love you. Okay, so 1.2 million into the Barnfield credit, he said. Is that the same credit that is the environmental clean up credit where the poor people pay that? Okay, well, we ain't gotta answer that right now. Okay, so she was just saying something about housing and 80%. Like, I don't understand all this. I'm 27 years old, and I'm homeless, mental illnesses. But what she was saying, I know what division that's like a high crime rate, drug affected street, isn't it? So if I got Section 8, which a 1-bedroom is $784 I could get, and she said something about $800, that's way above what I can afford with my Section 8. So something about 80%, so that means 80% got to drop down for me to be able to afford my Section 8, which is $784. So would that have to come down, let's see, 80%? So what, are we looking at about, it needs to go down to 60% or 55%? No question? No answer? I don't know. You help me. You should know this, right? What? Come on, Mayor, help me out.
This isn't an opportunity to go back and forth,
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
we're happy
So
to.
I'm trying to get an understanding. Is there an opportunity to get understanding here?
I'll make sure that there are staff that are available to provide you with information.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure Martha, I want everyone to get the understanding. I'm sure a lot of people want to know, like, isn't this viewed or something online? Like, I'm sure a lot of people, like, he got a good point here. So I'm trying to get an understanding here. Can't you help me right now? I mean, I still got 1 minute and 15 seconds.
This isn't an opportunity to go back and forth. I'm sorry. This is for us to hear your input on this request.
Okay, so with my input on this request, I feel like this should not get voted since I can't get. I mean, is this going to help 55 below, or is this going to help senior citizens that are older? And I feel like homeless is for a lot of people. We got vets that's 55 and older, and we got kids that's like 15 and 14 that is homeless because they've been kicked out of housing, so they're fighting homelessness too. So who is this really going to help out here? Okay, yeah, so I guess I'll leave it there.
Thank you. I see Bree standing up. So Bree, do you want to try to address any of those comments?
I just wanted to issue a clarification. First of all, I think that some of the comments that are being made are just alluding to the issues of affordability and the income that is necessary in order to afford housing in our ever-growing community, certainly. What I just wanted to clarify is that the housing units on the Plaza Roosevelt site, the maximum income level is 80% for the homeownership units, and the maximum income level for the dwelling place units is actually 60%. So that is the highest amount. There is an opportunity for folks with incomes well below that to be able to be served through those units as well. So I just wanted to issue that as a point of clarification.
Great, thank you, thank you. Oh, sir, you only get one chance to speak. No, you don't get a chance to speak again. So if you want to speak to somebody afterwards, that's fine, but you only get one opportunity to come up for public comment per public hearing. One, as we say, one bite at the apple. So if you want to sit back down. Thank you. Anyone else who would like to be heard on this item? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close this opportunity for public comment, and we're going to refer this to a committee of the whole, and I'm going to move to the next public hearing. So the next public hearing is a public hearing to consider a brownfield plan amendment to the inner city Christian. I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, I did not see you coming up. So I'm going to move to.
Some great seats up front, Mr. Miller. There's some great seats up front.
Well, you're a relative newcomer when that's happened. She's
Mr.
pulled
Miller,
a,
Mr. Miller, if you have something to say about this brownfield request for the
well,
Habitat.
he's not supposed to jump in like that, okay.
And Mr. Miller, I'm going to have to
Right,
remind everyone of the rules here.
The question is, as you've received previous testimony in the last year, that Roosevelt Park is 55% kinky, in other words, illegal aliens. Will priority be given to U.S. citizens and to U.S. veterans? You've heard that testimony. And our American citizens are hurting badly. So they should be getting priority. And also a public school. We got plenty of public schools around town. In fact, you gave away one at the museum school. Why do they? So, of course, in what language will the public school classes be conducted in?
All right, thanks, Mr. Miller. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this opportunity for public comment. This will be referred back to Committee of the Whole, and we'll move next to our next public hearing. So the next public hearing is a public hearing to consider a brownfield plan amendment for the Inner City Christian Federation for the Eastern Elementary redevelopment project. Again, notice of this public hearing was made pursuant to state law. We'll start off with Kara Wood talking about this, and then we'll ask someone from ICCF. I believe Jan's here tonight to talk about this project, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
All right, so this project is the renovation of an existing historic building to convert it to mixed use, including 50 new residential apartments and approximately 2,000 square feet of office space on the ground floor. This project will include residential units available to households earning various incomes relative to the area median, and 26 of the units would be available to those earning 60% AMI and lower, 9 units to 80% AMI and lower, and 15 units to 120% AMI and lower. Total investment in this project is $14.5 million, and they are seeking reimbursement for eligible costs of $729,533. These costs include environmental assessment, due care, demolition, lead and asbestos abatement, public infrastructure improvements, and site preparation activities under the Act. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority approved a grant from the local Brownfield Revolving Fund in the amount of $465,000. The remaining eligible activities would be reimbursed through the tax increment revenue generated from the property from the time the original Brownfield plan was approved until such time the property becomes exempt from taxes under the pilot payment in lieu of taxes. So it's expected that the reimbursement could be approximately $172,000, bringing the total support from the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to $637,000. So almost covering the entire amount of Brownfield eligible activities, but not entirely. 2 new permanent jobs are anticipated as a result of this project, and it's expected that this project and its residents will generate an additional $8,705 of new income tax per year, which would, in the first year, be contributed to the city's Affordable Housing Community Fund. This project includes funding from a variety of sources that are necessary to make this project financially feasible, and they are numerous. So we have the Community Development Block Grant Fund contributing, the local Brownfield Revolving Fund, Brownfield Tax Increment Financing, a deferred developer fee, and developer land contribution, along with many other state and federal resources. This project was reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission, and a conditional approval of the payment in lieu of taxes from the City Commission was approved on June 12th of this year. This project is located in the Highland Park neighborhood, and the developer has engaged the neighborhood in a variety of different capacities, including holding several open houses at the site. This project was presented to the Economic Development Project Team on January 9, and I would be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the project.
So Kara, can you elaborate a little bit on the estimated rental ranges? I think the language around 60% AMI, 80%, 120
Sure.
is really confusing. And so can you
Sure.
elaborate a little bit more?
For this project specifically, and maybe Jan can help us with this, but the estimated rental ranges for the 80% AMI units are $550 to $725, and those include 0, 1, and 2 bedroom units. The 80% AMI units, of which there are 9, those rental ranges will be between $775 a month and $975 a month. These two include 0, 1, and 2 bedroom units, so a variety of different options there. The 120% AMI units, which there are 15, will include 0, 1, and 2 bedroom, along with some 3 bedroom units. And those rent ranges will be from $975 a month to $1,275 a month.
Thanks. I think in the future, it'd probably be helpful to make sure we include those ranges so that it's really clear. Thanks.
Mayor, if I could, just a clarification, I think the first range from 550 to 725, she read was for 60% AMI. I think she may have said 80%
Oh, okay.
on the first one.
Yep, the lowest range here is 60% AMI, 550 to 725 per month.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll ask a representative from ICCF to come up and elaborate a little bit more. Welcome, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
Hi, I'm Jan Vanderwoord. I work at Intercity Christian Federation. So thank you, City Commission, for having us today and for considering this for approval. Eastern Elementary School feels like I've been talking about this in public a long time already, but this project is a really exciting piece for the community because it's checking so many of the boxes that we want to check. One, it's a beautiful historic structure. It's a school that was a focal point, an important fixture in a community, a neighborhood that identifies around the school that is going to be reactivated and preserved. And it's also going to be home for low-income households in varying sizes. It's going to be home for households that don't qualify for affordable housing because they make too much, but they can't afford market rate housing. And so it's a real innovation because it's blending together funds from MISHDA and the MEDC, the city's community development department, brownfield funds, CDBG. It's really a all-in community effort to make affordable housing plus workforce housing possible. And it doesn't exist in Grand Rapids yet because it's very, very hard to finance developments like that. So we're really excited about it. We just got our final architecture from our architect to lay out the 50 apartments 2 days ago. So this thing's steamrolling forward, and it's really exciting to see what's possible. So again, 26 of the units will be designated for households that make below 60% of the area's median income. And for the public, what that means is that you can't make $1 more than the 60% level based on bedroom size. Okay, so the number of bedrooms. And to clarify an aspect of what Kara said, a 0 bedroom means a studio apartment. There is a bedroom, I promise. It's just a studio apartment. But it's really hard to do affordable housing mixed with market rate. It's even harder to do affordable housing mixed with that middle space, that missing middle, as we call it in Grand Rapids. So very happy to answer any questions and clarify any aspects of the income targeting you would like. But our hope is to break ground with this construction in the spring. And it'll take a year to construct. And we certainly have a long wait list in our community of low income and middle income people who need housing that's cheaper than market rate.
All right, Commissioners, questions? Commissioner?
I do just want to thank you for putting this project together. I know it was complex because you didn't have the normal LIHTC process. And thank you, Kara and staff, for also helping. There's such a tremendous need, as we are hearing from our community. So thank you.
Any other questions? And Jen, just remind us how long, I feel like it's been about 10 years that this building's been vacant.
This building was closed by GRPS in 2007.
2007, 11 years.
I might be wrong, 2008. I think it was remediated partially in 7 and then it was closed in 8. It was bought by a private development company that was not able to develop it as a package. It was owned by charter school company who then we bought it from, which is a little out of order for development work. You don't buy buildings and then figure out how to pay for them next. But we love the building, we love the site, and the engagement with the community is largely positive. They are excited about it. It's a big change for that community, but a vacant school like that is not what this community needs right now. So,
yeah. Thank you. And next to it, we have a new playground and a public park space. So that will be a nice addition as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, we're going to try to get some information, I think, up on the screen that may be helpful for folks who don't have all the information in front of them. So if you are here tonight to be heard on this request, now's an opportunity to come forward. Again, we ask that you share your name, the city that you live in. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Is anyone here to be specifically heard on this project? Go ahead.
My name is Courtney Harvest, and I
Welcome.
live in Wyoming. But, I think there's too many places being built for, with condos. Make those into low income for people that need it. And keep the school the way it is, and make a center for kids and young youth to keep them out of trouble. Because you don't see nothing for kids these days anymore. It's all about money here in Grand Rapids. And I think the kids should be more important than building more houses. Because the kids should always come first.
Thank you. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard on this request? All right. If you want to be heard, stand up, or I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay. I'm going to try to move us along here a little bit.
I know, I just do a lot of homework. I'm sorry. Once again, my name is Official Von Ruff. I would stay in the Hartside community. So will developers pay anything to redo this building, or will they just profit? As well as how much ICCF out of pocket will go into that after the tax incentives in the 2 to 3?
Yep. I'm going to wait for other public comment, and then we'll call Jan back up to answer any questions that were
Okay,
posed.
great.
Okay. Anyone else?
Would I be able to come back up if I had another question?
No. You could
It's
ask
not a
them.
fair game here.
This is the rules.
We gotta
That's
break.
right.
We gotta bend these rooms.
If you have additional rules, now's the time to ask them. Or additional questions, now's the time to ask them.
All right, let me go to my notes again. Okay, so I believe I heard about 50 apartments, and that's like for low-income housing. But then I heard something about 1.2 million or something. 1.2 million is a lot of money to go into just 50 apartments. Like, that's like unheard of. Like, it sounds like that could be cut down a lot more. Like the young lady said, like the kids need to be, it should be about the kids more. And there's a lot of kids that are homeless. So 1.2 million and 50 apartments, that sounds like this needs to be reevaluated again. Because that's, I mean, if you gave me 1.2 million, I'm sure I can make that work. Like, we could all get housing real quick. So yeah, we're going to talk about that.
All right, thank you. All right, Jan, do you want to respond to that?
I cannot make 50 apartments with 1.2 million, so if you can make that work, that's awesome. Kids, the comment about kids, the city owns the park space immediately adjacent, which is great because we can't afford to keep it up, and the city's parks department will. They have a brand new playground. I think that's kid-focused. There is a gym that cannot get converted to apartments in this building, which will be used by kids and adults, I hope. So there are 2 amenities in this school that is a vacant building that's been vacant and mothballed for years. So it's reactivating something that is a disinvestment at this point. So yeah, that's the point, I guess, about the kids thing and the difference in the apartments in terms of the affordability of the apartments. There's a table. The table really helps, I think, kind of show the range that we've got. So,
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Jan. And we'll in the future make sure that that's up on the screen as well. Because it's helpful. All right, any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close this public comment period, and this will be referred to committee of the whole. Okay. All right, next, that's going to take us to our next public hearing, and this is a public hearing to consider the establishment of a residential parking permit zone on Alabama Avenue. So to start us off on this, we will have Mr. Josh Naramore come forward, and then I'll open up for public comment if you're here to be heard on this. All right, Josh, want to tell us about this?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Over on the west side, we have experienced a tremendous amount of growth, and earlier throughout this summer, we actually have expanded some of the parking meters over on the course of Bridge Street. As a result of this and some of the corresponding outreach, it was brought to our attention from a couple of residential apartment buildings located on Alabama Avenue that there was a need to actually protect some of the integrity of the on-street parking for maintaining the availability for the residents in the neighborhood itself. So in front of you this evening is a public hearing to consider establishing a residential parking permit zone on Alabama Avenue just north of Bridge Street up to 2nd Street.
Commissioners, any questions? First Ward Commissioners, I know you're both aware of this. Any comments, questions? Okay, all right.
I do have a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
Josh, you know that we've been talking about some of the problems that exist on Wealthy Street with the parking situation. My number one concern is the community engagement. How well is that engagement in reference to what's getting ready to happen on Alabama Street?
So, Commissioner, for this one in particular, with the residential parking outreach, each property address that we pull from the files we have within 300 feet of the proposed zone were mailed individual. Prior to that, all of the outreach and engagement included a summary of working with the neighborhood association, working with the business district, disseminating to the various networks. That's part of how we had gotten some of the outreach about making some of the changes along the way and doing sort of a plan, do, check, act approach associated with this. With Wealthy Street, very similarly in terms of that approach, and all of that in terms of how we're trying to do a series of all different types of communication methodologies. So the biggest one is just trying to be able to reach out to those various networks, but the only thing we did not do in this neighborhood was do door clings, which is a recommendation from our new city manager, as well as we did not do door-to-door, which is the one other piece that has been brought up. Mostly, first, with the door clings, we plan on doing that with future outreach for residential parking permit areas based on the recommendation that Mr. Washington gave to us just a few weeks ago. And then the door-to-door issue is really a resource challenge in terms of how we can staff and train enough people appropriately to be able to do that. But that is certainly something that we can definitely entertain for future outreach efforts.
So in other words, the residents are not complaining?
Excuse me, for Alabama?
Yes.
Actually, that's part of how we had, not complaining against this. This is actually a request from the residents themselves as part of the outreach efforts that we had done. There was fear that we were going to meter and eliminate the parking, and they're limited with the on-site parking that's available in the 2 residential buildings.
Thank you.
But if they want to complain, they're likely here in the audience. So this is specifically for this parking. Anything else, commissioners?
No, I just wanted to just be clear that communication is very important to me. It's key. And I think it's important that the community is never left out. Sometimes I think decisions can be made without a lot of communication to the community. And just recently at one of the meetings we had, which you were hosting, it was very important to hear what the residents' concern was about a parking permit, especially within the residential business area. So I just wanted to make sure that we are getting the information out and that there is some feedback from the residents.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Commissioner. Thank you. All right, thanks. So if you are here tonight to be heard specifically about this request for the residential parking permit zone on Alabama, so this is just for the Alabama Avenue. If you're here for Lake Drive, we're going to do that one next. So if you're here tonight just to speak about this for Alabama Avenue, please come forward. Same rules apply. We just ask that you share your name, the city that you live in, and we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. Oh, and our city clerk reminds me to tell you to sign in, please.
Okay,
Hi.
so my name is Seth Rockwitz. I live in the 616 Lofts building on Alabama in Grand Rapids. And I just wanted to address some points that were made in the agenda item tonight. And then also propose an alternative that I think would probably be better. So the first point made in the proposal I want to talk about is that there was considerable business growth in the area, which requires parking regulation. As I said in the last meeting, the only growth that's resulted in increased street parking is on the evening and weekends, which is restaurant traffic. It doesn't really happen during the daytime. And it's outside of enforcement hours. There's so little demand that the new metered zone is virtually empty until 5 p.m. And then I just experienced it today. In the minutes that followed, it was virtually full. 10 minutes later, it was full. Another point is that residents can no longer utilize these metered spaces. It's actually untrue, and I've kind of seen how this worked out. The majority of residents that utilize street parking work during the day. So as long as they leave before 8 a.m. and come back after 5 p.m., they can park in those spaces overnight. They don't have to pay for anything. So the meters have just shuffled us around, but it actually hasn't impacted our residential parking situation. Another point made in the agenda item is that the rest of Alabama should become a residential zone, so we're not negatively affected by the new meters. I'd say that the meters are inconvenient, but I haven't been negatively affected by them. Transient parking is in the same spots that we use because nobody wants to park in the meters. And even though there's a minor construction project going on right now, which is actually closed off the northern part of Alabama, it's still possible to find a spot during the daytime hours. It's not the case in the evening, but it's the case during the enforcement hours that would be in place for this zone. Another point is that it would be enforced from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. As I've said, it's not really effective if that happens because we don't need a zone from 8 to 5. We need a zone after 5 and on the weekends. I can't recall a single time in the year and a half I've lived there where I came home and said during those hours, man, I wish this was a residential zone. So I don't think the proposal actually fixes any real issues. The new metered zone sits empty, and transient street parking is just taking up our spots. So my proposal would be to replace the metered zone with 2-hour free parking and leave the rest unregulated, no residential zone. Transients would park close to Bridge Street, which I think was the original goal. They're not doing that right now. Large commercial vehicles would still find it easy to park close to the entrances of the buildings. That's actually been fixed. That's something that I noticed for a long time, and I'm glad to see that happening. And residents would be parking where we do now. I think it's an easy way to achieve what the original goal was, which was move transients closer to Bridge Street and move us further up. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Seth. All right, others who wish to be heard on this item related to parking on Alabama? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing, and we'll refer that back to our committee of the whole. All right, next that will take us to a public hearing to consider establishing a residential parking permit zone on a portion of Lake Drive. So Josh, you want to talk about this one?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, this is very similar to the last item. We have also been doing some outreach and engagement in the Uptown Corridor Improvement District. Throughout a number of the outreach there, this particular instance is on Lake Drive, as you approach Diamond, just north of the Cherry Street business area and the East Hills Business Association District. One thing that was noticed is on this particular stretch with the meters, we were negatively impacting a couple different properties with apartments that have no on-site parking and have not because they're historic properties and they are boxed in. So as part of the outreach associated with this, as well as what Commissioner Moody had referenced, we've been exploring different areas along Wealthy Street, as well as this section of Lake Drive, to establish a residential parking permit zone. Again, as mentioned in the previous item, we noticed all of the properties within 300 feet of this after we had done all of the previous outreach to make some various changes and talking to the property owners in the area.
Great, thanks. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions. Questions or comments for Josh? All right, okay. Oh,
Just one thing, at your place, we got a late email that came to Mobile GR and to us from a business owner at 959 Lake Drive. So you have that in front of you as well. So that just came in after the deadline. So just want to make sure that you're aware that you have that.
great, thanks. And that's specific to this public hearing, so thank you. Is anyone here to be heard on this item before us about the residential parking permit for this small section of Lake Drive? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing, and we'll refer that to the committee of the whole. All right, so next that will take us to our last opportunity for public comment tonight. So if you are here to be heard on any other item, now's an opportunity to come forward. The same rules apply, so we ask that you share your name, the city that you live. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak, and we ask that you make sure you put your name over there on that sheet of paper. Mr. Townsend, you want to go first? All
I
right.
done sat so long, I done got hoarse. Yeah. My name's Johnny Townsend. I live at 10 Delaware. I'm here to comment, well, before I comment, at least I know where to go when I leave here now. Go out at 60th Street and just lay on the steps at Pine Rest. Thank you. But I'm here because of something that was said at the meeting. I mean, happened at the meeting Sunday, and I wasn't there, but it happened. And that because every time there was an incident between a youth and the police department, every other city manager, everybody up there have always went along with the police department, or at least they didn't have the voice that Mr. Robert S. had, not that I'm crazy about him, but at least the voice that he had to come forward and say something, because I didn't even have to know it was the new city manager, Mr. Washington, that suggested that they get together and talk instead of bickering between each other. Get together and talk, because there's always been a closed mind society, and a closed mind can receive no new information. And when you go with one side, the only thing that do is fuel the fire. That's putting fuel on the fire. And you have incidents like you had in Ferguson and all of that there. To give you a good example of what I'm talking, and please don't say I'm paying the race card when I say this here, but you do studies on stuff. Do a study. See how many white kids that you have had on their knees with handcuffs on them. And don't tell me that they don't do stuff, because we have a AA meeting at Shelton Complex that used to, and they have been in there and stole cars and stole guns and stole everything, and wasn't on their knees with no police around them with guns drawn and stuff. So I am not playing the race card. We never had a race card to play. We didn't put the race card in the deck. It got put in there a long time ago, and we got nothing to do with it. We aren't the ones that have to take that race card out. You do. And to give you a quick example before my time run out, I stole a candy bar down south when I was 11 years old. And the sheriff there, Mr. B.L. Harpoon, did not take me to jail, did not put no handcuffs on me. He took me to Susie Brand and let Susie Brand take care of that. That was my mother. So what I'm saying is that if they don't arrest people down there that is 11 years old, why do they think they have a right to do it here? Thank you, Mr. Washington, because I know it was your idea. It couldn't have been nobody else's but yours.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. My name is David Davis, and I've spoke here before. I'm going to try to enlarge upon my problems with the trash. Just today, I was riding my bike across the Leonard Street Bridge on the Grand River, and there was a kitchen-sized trash can laying in the street, and every vehicle that went by it was blowing it around. If a big truck had gone by it, it could have blown it into a windshield of another car. Now, I picked it up and took it off the bridge and put it in a place where it could be picked up. This isn't the first time I've done that. And I'm really concerned about the safety of people walking, the people on bikes, the people in cars and trucks. We all have to be concerned about the trash of our city. I have several ideas. I tried to approach the Honorable Mayor for some time to speak to her. I understand she's a very busy lady and she didn't have time for this particular issue. If she can direct me to a person that can get me started on some resources to get this going, I'd appreciate it. I have some plans in mind, and there are things that we can do to build the pride of the people of the city of Grand Rapids. When we live in a garbage dump, who can have pride? It contributes to delinquency and many other problems in the city. We have to clean up the trash. And that includes your throwaway stuff from the fast food places and that. We do have several manufacturers here in town now that are cleaning up around their businesses. Why can't we do this with some of the businesses that cater to the people? Why can't they clean up around their business? It's an attribute to their business to have a clean place to come to. And I think if we develop that kind of a program, it would be very helpful. And I'll wait to hear from the commission and the mayor herself if there's somebody that I can start this progress with. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
All right, repeat my name again. Fisher Von Ruff. I'm Hartside resident, once again. So the guy was speaking earlier about something about the Robert Ash or something anyways. I really don't know who that is. Just moved up here, so I'm getting new to this area and issues going on here. But speaking of one issue is the little girl, 12 years old, shotgun to her head. Mayor, do you have kids? Do you have like a daughter or a son? Okay, I got you. You won't answer that. Anyway, so if you do, how would you feel as a mother if your child was 12 years old? I mean, I have a daughter. She's 10. I mean, if my daughter got a shotgun to her head, I mean, I would feel very upset, and I wouldn't feel safe in my community, my street, my neighborhood. Question I had asked the city attorney's office is, when a person calls the police and they give information to them, and the police come and try to uphold the law, and the information that the law gets is false information, that is like a false report to an officer, which the individual should be charged for. So I feel like that whole incident, the caller should be charged for, and also the caller should be paying for treatment for that little girl, because I know personally that the little girl has a lot of trauma she's dealing with, because I just saw her on Sunday. I feel like the city and you all up here should take responsible and make sure justice is served and the rights of that little girl is taken seriously. Due to the piece of paper that we was handed on Sunday about the rights of a child, and in that paper, in the opening statement, which didn't make very sense to me at the age of 27, to say that a child has the right, equal rights as an adult when it comes to the amendment, the Constitution. I don't understand how that's true when a child doesn't even fully understand the Constitution. Where I'm 27, I still fully don't understand the Constitution. So I'm trying to figure out how would a 12-year-old fully understand the Constitution. I really feel like you all right here should be holding the Constitution to its standards and really pushing for justice for this situation that is at hand. I feel like it's been ignored. It should have been touched on. It's a issue that needs to be handled like right away. It shouldn't take months or weeks. It should be handled within a week. Everything should stop, and the child's safety should be first. I mean, look at the point of FOC.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening to the mayor and city commissioner, and to the mayor I'd like to say a special buonasera.
Thank you.
My name is Rina Baker, and I live and vote in the city of Grand Rapids. 2 weeks from today, the voters of Grand Rapids will go to the polls to elect our next governor. The last time we elected a governor, in November 2014, 36.56% of our voters turned out to vote. 4 years earlier, in November 2010, 40.48% of our voters turned out to vote. This year, with an open governor seat, the turnout will be well over 40%. Wouldn't it be wonderful if that many of our voters turn out to participate in our elections for city officials to sit on this commission? You will empower the citizen of Grand Rapids if you move election of city officials to the even years. Thank you. Grazie.
Grazie.
Prego.
I'm working on it. Prego.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Burke. Buonasera to Mayor Bliss. Commissioner Moody, you don't know me very well. I don't know you, but I was really impressed with your statement that you were concerned that citizens need to be engaged and informed in the process, and I think that's a great mindset to have. I feel that when we look at voter turnout in odd year elections, and basically 9% of our city voters are engaged in your elections, it really doesn't speak to engaging the citizens of Grand Rapids. And I do feel that since 2012, this process was put in place by the Michigan legislature and the Michigan Municipal League by simply holding a small public hearing and being in agreement that this is the right thing to do. You can make that happen. Your terms are extended by a year, and in city elections, more citizens would be engaged. I'd like to read you a list of cities that have already done that. in the state of Michigan. Algonac, Auburn, Battle Creek, Belding, Bridgman, Bronson, Caro, Coloma, Croswell, Davison, East Tawas, Everett, Hastings, Imlay City, Lincoln Park, Ludington, Luna Pier, Marine City, New Buffalo, Niles, Omer, Pinconning, Reading, Saginaw, Sandusky, Standish, Vassar, Watervliet, Westland, and a little bit out of order are the last two W's, the city of Walker and the city of Wyoming. I believe that all of these cities have moved their elections for city officials to even-numbered years because they value the opinion of the local voters. And I urge you to consider the matter and to do what I consider to be the right thing. Thank you very much. Grazie.
Thanks, Ms. Burke. All right, others wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mark Petzold. I live and vote in the city of Grand Rapids. I was just going to say I've been listening to all this debate tonight, and you can sense sometimes the hostility and a bit of a cantankerous spirit about how to divide the public treasury. Some people benefiting, some people feel like they're being slighted. Whatever the case, I just want to point out that our group, ETC, Empower the Citizens, we've petitioned all of you guys, and we're giving you an opportunity, honestly, to do a very simple thing. What we're asking for you to do is actually really, I would say, a really great change, because everything else you have to do something. In this case, you have to stop having the elections on the even years. And by doing that, there's moral, there's fiscal elements at play. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to pull from our American heritage and reference the Bible. Good leaders need wisdom to lead well. We need to only review the words of the wisest man to ever be in leadership. In his book, Left for Posterity, I quote the words of Solomon from his book of Proverbs. So Proverbs 21, verses 2 and 3. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs his heart. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Proverbs 29 and 7. The righteous consider the cause of the poor, but the wicked do not understand such knowledge. Proverbs 31, 8 and 9. Open your mouth for the mute, or those that don't have a voice, for their rights of all who are unfortunate and defenseless. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and administer justice for the afflicted and for the needy. There's lots of reasons why people vote or don't vote. Some are good, some are not good. But the fact is there's people that struggle to vote. You all can do something very simple with a stroke of a pen to help people vote. Attention to the words of Solomon calls leadership to a place of integrity, honor, and respect. A place I'm sure I am sure to which you all aspire to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. All right, others wish to be heard? Bless you.
I'm Martha Cooper. Couple things, especially, I wanted to say I did not make it to the Sunday as we're all out in the communities tapping on those doors for votes. I am like a news junkie. I read the news like crazy, and I have seen Grand Rapids hit the news in the nation for holding children at gunpoint, not just cuffing them. But I'm talking about, I watched the video where two 11-year-old boys had to walk backwards almost a half a block with a gun on them. I can't imagine. I can't imagine that, and I don't want that in my city. I understand that these days policing has always been a scary job. But Whatever happened to the days where you said, hey, put your hands up against the car and they frisk you? The kid could even understand that. But guns on them? There's just no way. I mean, even if you think they have a gun, there's still no way. Also, I want to really agree with this person because we have seen on the internet all the time, you know, Pool Patty calls the police, and then we got this person calling the police and that person calling the police on kids. And I'm like, hey, I want a city where if somebody's making false police reports because maybe they're racist, because, you know, it happens all over, I want them held accountable. Nobody should be pulling up on a kid and taking them in cuffs if they don't know who called. And if they're not going to go to that person's door. I mean, really? If I call and I say something bad's going on, like I don't want, people being in danger. I want them to feel free to call. But I also know that we haven't heard anything about who called, just that there was nothing wrong. But some police showed up. So I also just want to say that I thank you, ICCF. I want to shout out to you because it really made me feel a lot better to get an answer. I watched this man come up and I really felt for him because I've been coming a long time and it's really hard to learn this stuff, all right? We need answers. We need to know what they are and we have a right to know and to comment on that specific stuff. So I also want to say that I've been talking to you over a year about people living in motels and I just saw the, I'm supposed to be like professional. No, man, I feel those people's hurt. They're getting thrown out. And then you're saying there's no money. But you just spent $91,000 on a social worker when there are social workers in this town. And I just can't believe when they say, well, sorry, everybody, you're out now and you got no place. I wasn't happy with three kids and a person in a motel, no. But I'm a lot less happy hearing they're thrown out of the motel.
Thank you.
My time is up.
Thank you, Martha.
I don't expect answers, but thank you.
All right, others who wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Scott Tillman. I don't actually live in the city of Grand Rapids. I live in Kentwood. But I wanted to voice my support of the idea to change the elections to the even years. As we all know, right now we're in the middle of heated election season, and every 2 years we get in the middle of a heated election season. People choose right now, well, it's kind of foisted on them, but this is the time when it's election season and people actually pay attention to their politics. And if we were to switch Grand Rapids, and hopefully eventually Kentwood, and other cities around the state to the even year, people can get all their politics in at one time and then go figure out things, and it will help get more community engagement. It'd be very beneficial, helps people get more involved. The more things that are on the ballot at any given time, people are always driving more voters to turn out. It'll get more people coming out for other issues as well to have the city elections on at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, others who wish to be heard? All right. Oh. You can speak and then sign in afterwards if you'd like. How are you?
Good. Good evening, Commissioners. Mr. Washington, new City Manager. Happy to see you. My City Commissioner, Mr. Nathaniel Moody, and Ms. Anita Lanier. I'm from the 3rd Ward. And I have just been sitting there observing. I'm a former educator, taught at Grand Rapids Community College. And I know sometimes people just don't understand things. And whereas you might be thinking they do understand, they don't. And I think that there's a time now, and I've been listening to a lot of things and been reading a lot of things. I think there's a time now where we can become, just inform ourselves a bit more. Basic language that you use may not be coming across. Basic terminology may not be coming across. And I think you're talking about having an election on an even year, that might be fine, but what if they still don't understand what's going on? How are they going to come to City Hall, come to this meeting, and sit here and not understand the language that you're using? And you think, well, okay, we just pass and we move on. But I'm sitting there, I'm listening, I'm saying, I don't think they would understand that. And I'm not undermining anyone's intelligence. I'm just saying we have to do better than that as a city commission. We have to do better because we have to make sure that if our citizens are going to respect us, respect the commissioners and other officers, they have to make sure they understand what you're talking. Otherwise, they're just going to sit at home and just gripe about it. And we don't need that. We don't need to just gripe. We want to make this city the city that we think it is, and we've heard a lot of things about it, the kids and all the other things, which we know we're not quite up to par yet. But one of the things we need to do is to make sure people understand. And I have some ideas that I'll be sharing with my commissioners for sure to let them know, then I'm sure they'll bring it back to the body as a whole, because without that, I can assure you, people are just going to gripe and they're just going to not participate. And if that's all you want is to say, well, we hold city commission meetings and people do not show and they must be in agreement, they're not. They're not. They just don't understand. And some of the things you say, I think you can better clarify it, and I think there are ways of doing it, and I'm available to help you do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good feedback. All right, others wish to be heard? Anyone else? All right, I'm going to close that public comment period. I'm going to turn to my colleagues on the commission. And I'll start down here with Commissioner Apart.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I do want to say that encourage everybody to come continue the dialogue around what's happening in town between the community and the police tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. That group was the one who came up with the youth policy, so I think it's going to be, that's the group to have that, continue that dialogue with. So please come out tomorrow and continue to voice your feedback about what's happening in the community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Moody?
Yeah, I want to also thank everyone for coming out, and also want to kind of echo what I said earlier, and that is that communication is key. It is important. Mrs. Kroom has just said something I think is very interesting and vital to us, and that is keeping it simple so that the community does understand.
Yeah, good point. Thanks. Commissioner?
So I just want to also say thank you all for coming tonight, and those of you who are listening and watching, thank you for paying attention to local government. I wish more people would. We've heard some numbers about how many people get out and vote, and I wish we'd have 100%, but I do appreciate your coming and do look forward, hopefully, to many of you being present tomorrow night at GRPS University on Fuller Avenue for a conversation and the reporting out of the 21st Century Task Force Group.
Commissioner Jones?
Just want to thank everyone for their presence this evening, whether you spoke or you didn't speak. Just want to say thank you for coming out.
Thanks. Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to the mayor and my colleague in the First Ward, Kurt, for attending the groundbreaking today for Grand River Aseptic Manufacturing, a very exciting new project. It's we broke ground for today on the west side, just south of Grand Valley. It's a pretty remarkable story of what this company's been able to do in 7 short years, and they're going to spend $60 million creating from 115 jobs today to 350 jobs when the project's all said and done. These are great, high-tech, high-skill, good-paying jobs that are going to bring real value to our community, or our ward, and our neighborhood, and create real opportunities for people. So it's very exciting to see that they made they had a choice. They could have went anywhere in the country, and they specifically wanted to make their investment and stay in Grand Rapids. And so we're glad that they did that and made that investment.
Yeah, thanks. Commissioner Lanier?
Thanks to everyone who came out and for the comments that have been shared. Thank you, Mrs. Kroom, for eloquently sharing your perspective on making sure we change some of the language that we use. And to the gentleman who continued, for a newbie in our city coming out and sharing your perspective, I appreciate that. Trying to get through the system and following the rules or trying to break them at least. I appreciate that as well. Good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone and especially thank the staff for the work that they have done in preparation for this meeting. Thank all of you for being here. I do want to reflect on the comments from Mr. Townsend and acknowledge publicly that it was not my work alone, but the work of many of the commissioners trying to seek a better resolution on the outcome from the meeting on Sunday. And so I want to thank all the commissioners for their support, and particularly the mayor was unable to be here because you were out of town, but our president, Commissioner Lanier, was able to act in your stead, and we had Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Kelly part of that conversation on Sunday as the incident took place in their ward. I also want to just respond to a little bit about the communication, and I think we had a technical difficulty tonight in getting many of the charts and documents on, and we had a glitch with the website. We'll make sure that that's addressed by the next meeting. But I do want to let the public know we are listening. I've asked at the last meeting a staff person to take every public comment and who spoke. Unfortunately, as you sign up, we don't have a contact information, either phone number or email if there's a need for follow-up, but we will have a staff person sitting right where Mr. Von Ruff is at the next meeting to make sure we're able to follow up with it, with the public.
Thank you. Appreciate that. City Attorney? City Clerk, you want to say something about the election?
I do.
I thought you might.
So, 2 weeks to my Super Bowl. So we're gearing up. We are preparing as if this was a presidential election, actually. So just so the commission knows and those at home, we're 50% over our absentees where we were 4 years ago. So we're not quite to 2016 level, but we are processing a lot of absentee ballots. So I'm preparing for what we had a 36% turnout in 2014. I'm modeling probably about 53% actually. So we're preparing as if it was a presidential, which is normally around 60%. So that's where we're at for that. For those in the audience and those watching us on the interwebs, we will have a couple in-person absentee voting events coming up on Sunday, October 28th, from noon to 5. City Hall will be open. So you come in the Monroe level. We will check your ID. You can bring your ID with you. If you don't have it with you, then you fill out an affidavit. We'll give you an application to fill out. Then you'll come up to the chambers here, and we'll have ballots, and we will be issuing absentee ballots. You can vote it here or take it with you. So that's Sunday, October 28th. And then on Saturday, November 3, you can come to the second floor of City Hall. We'll be open from 8 a.m. till 2 o'clock p.m. And then also you can get an absentee ballot if you come to our office between 8 and 5 as well. And then if you come on the day before the election, you can get an absentee ballot, but you have to vote it in person. So all that's on our website as well, but there are lots of opportunities outside of our regular business hours to vote absentee. And then Election Day, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you're in line at 8 p.m., you can still vote. So, but a lot of that information, and then if you want to know where your polling place is, michigan.gov/vote, you can look at a sample ballot and research the candidates. Thank you.
And speaking of modeling, aren't you in a new video that we can all watch?
Oh, yeah. So I am, and Mr. Almonte is my Spanish voice. So thank you, Tom, for doing Spanish broadcasting for that too. So a nice 4-minute video. So we'll have that all linked up and ready to go.
It's about elections, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yes.
about elections. It is not my stand-up. So.
Thank you for clarifying that. And we have one final comment from our city manager, and then I'll go ahead and adjourn. So, city manager?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mayor. I neglected to also recognize the work of Chief Rahinsky in trying to bring about a better resolution in the community dialogue on Sunday, so we appreciate his work.
Thank you, and I will echo that. We're looking forward to seeing folks come out tomorrow night, and I know Chief Rinsky will be there as well, along with many of us around this table, and we're really hoping to have some continued dialogue about the recommendations coming out from 21st Century Policing. So thank you, everyone, for coming out. Appreciate you being here. Thank you to all the city staff who stay late on Tuesdays to be with us and be available, and thank you, City Manager, for following up, I know, on a concern that many of us have had about making sure that people have access to information and have someone to answer their questions after these meetings. So thank you for that. We are adjourned.